how much regulation is really too much? And what happens when policies made with the best intentions just crash head on with, well, messy human behavior?
The really critical question.
Yeah, because today we're not just looking at a policy failure, we're diving into this fascinating paradox, how trying really hard to protect people can actually maybe push them into more risk.
Exactly.
We're looking at the case of Sweden and online gambling. It feels like a real masterclass on this regulatory tightrope.
It really is.
Yeah.
Our mission today is basically to understand how Sweden, which we often see as, progressive, handled the re-regulation of its online betting market.
Okay.
And crucially, what lessons came out of it for anyone really who's trying to build a system that's, well, both safe and attractive to users.
Finding that sweet spot.
Finding that sweet spot, that narrow space where policy actually works with human nature, not against it.
So Sweden decides to tackle this whole online gambling thing. What were the specific problems they were trying to fix? And what was the big idea, the grand vision behind it all back in January 2019?
Well, the goals were, pretty noble, genuinely. They wanted to build a safe, transparent ecosystem.
Right.
It wasn't just random rules. It came from this belief in a really protective model, maximum player protection.
Okay.
Making sure providers were licensed, getting fair government revenue. All sounds good.
Sounds sensible.
And they put specific things in place. Mandatory deposit limits so you couldn't just pour endless money in. Time tracking so people knew how long they'd been playing.
Okay.
And this national self-exclusion system, spell pals, you could basically ban yourself from all licensed sites.
That does sound robust, very thorough on paper. I bet the people designing it felt pretty confident.
You think so?
But I'm guessing the real world had other ideas. Where did this perfect plan start to hit snags?
Exactly. The problems started cropping up pretty quickly. The policy was very strict initially, especially around bonuses.
Oh, bonus.
Yeah, heavy restrictions. The rule was crystal clear. Only one welcome bonus when you sign up. That's it.
Just one.
Per player, per license holder, effectively. No ongoing promotions, no loyalty rewards, no retention offers, nothing to keep people engaged long term.
Wow. Okay, but let's be real. That's like trying to run Netflix, but never recommending another movie after the first one.
That's a great analogy.
From a business angle, it just guts your ability to keep customers interested. It feels almost, I don't know, counterintuitive for entertainment.
It does. And it really brings up that clash, doesn't it, between strict rules and, well, how people actually behave.
Right.
Because what happened next was maybe predictable, if you think about it. Swedish players didn't just stop gambling.
No.
They just started leaving the regulated market, packed their bags, digitally speaking.
So they didn't stop playing, they just went somewhere else.
Exactly.
And where did they go?
To the offshore sites. The ones without Swedish licenses, operating outside Swedish law.
Oh, boy.
And crucially, without any of those consumer protections Sweden had worked so hard to put in place.
So the paradox really bites there. You try to protect them, they end up somewhere with zero protection.
Absolutely. And the Swedish Gambling Authority, Stellinspektionen, they found themselves in a really tough spot.
I can imagine.
Their efforts became like, regulatory whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
They'd shut down one unlicensed site, and it felt like two more just popped up instantly.
That's a classic enforcement headache. But hang on. Were there people inside Sweden, maybe industry watchers or even within the authority, who kind of saw this coming? Or was everyone blindsided?
Well, there were definitely concerns raised beforehand. Industry observers warned about the risk of driving players to the black market because the rules were so tight.
Okay, so it wasn't a total shock.
Not a total shock, but I think the sheer scale of the shift probably surprised a lot of people. The numbers are pretty stark. Industry experts reckon that Sweden's channelization rate, that's the fancy term, for the percentage of gambling happening on legal, licensed sites, it dropped below 75% for online casinos.
75. So wait, 1 in every 4 players.
Yep.
Yeah.
1 in 4 players effectively vanished from the regulated system. They're betting somewhere that Sweden has absolutely zero oversight.
Wow.
And it's not just a statistic, right? These are real people. Maybe some are vulnerable players who are now in environments designed to exploit them, precisely because the safer option was made too.
Well, boring or restrictive.
That's a really disturbing outcome. Despite all the protective measures, a quarter of the market is just out there in a regulatory blind spot.
Exactly.
It feels so counterintuitive. You regulate to protect, but you end up pushing people away from protection, which, if we zoom out, this whole Swedish case really forces that bigger question, doesn't it? How regulated is too regulated?
It absolutely does. It highlights this incredibly delicate balancing act.
How is that? Well, on one side, too little regulation. You get the Wild West. Shady operators, player exploitation, the works. We know that's bad.
Right. No arguments there.
But, as Sweden shows us pretty clearly, too much regulation, or maybe the wrong kind of regulation. The legal market can become so unappealing, so stripped of what players actually enjoy, that they just leave.
They vote with their feet, or their clicks, I guess.
Precisely. So this isn't just, oh, Sweden messed up. It's a profound lesson about finding that regulatory sweet spot, that point where you offer real protection, but without making the regulated space feel like a cage.
So, thinking beyond just gambling, what's the broader takeaway here? I mean, this feels like it could apply elsewhere.
I think it does.
The core lesson seems to be that over-regulating can seriously backfire. And not because the goals, player safety, transparency are wrong. They're absolutely right.
Of course.
But it backfires because the way it's done ignores basic human behavior. It reminds me of, super strict diets.
Yeah.
You intend to be healthy, but the restrictions are so intense that eventually you just,
You crave the forbidden fruit. Or the pastry, as you said earlier.
Exactly. Human nature is just tricky, isn't it? Even for policies with the best intentions.
It really is. And players, or consumers in general, often have these dual desires, right? People do want limits, often, especially to something like gambling. Responsible tools are important.
Sure.
But they also want entertainment, value, engagement. They want protection, yes, which is vital.
Yeah.
But they also respond to rewards, incentives to stay within that protected system.
So it comes back to that balance.
It does. And the metaphor maybe to think about is this. Is a country or a regulator building a safe playground that kids actually want to play in?
Okay.
Or are they building a fortress? Super safe, maybe, but so forbidding that nobody actually wants to go inside.
That's a powerful way to put it. Because, in online betting, or like you said, maybe lots of regulated areas, safety doesn't mean much if everyone's decided to play outside the walls anyway.
If the regulated space is a ghost town, you haven't really protected anyone. You might have even inadvertently increased risk by pushing them into the shadows.
So the Swedish experience, it's a really potent reminder then. Effective regulation isn't just about writing rules.
No.
It's about deeply understanding that human element. Finding that tricky balance between protecting people and actually keeping them engaged within the system you've built for their protection.
It's about building something people choose. Because it's safe, yes, but also because it's desirable in some way. It meets their needs, not just the regulator's checklist.
Absolutely. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe the next time, any of us encounter new rules, new regulations, could be finance, could be tech, could be anything.
Yeah.
We shouldn't just look at the stated goal. We should ask, okay, are these rules designed in a way that actually encourages people to stay within the safe zone? Or could they, maybe unintentionally, be pushing people out into those unregulated spaces where the dangers might actually be much, much bigger? Finding that regulatory sweet spot, that seems like the real ongoing challenge.
A challenge indeed. And one with lessons far beyond just Sweden or online gambling. It's about how we design systems for real humans.